Hello everybody, my name is Tobisatsu and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be going over the movies I had the chance to watch in the month of February. Love Me. I didn't know a ton about the film, besides the fact it was a robot romance film, and that it was receiving a ton of negative backlash from general audiences as well as critics. Honestly, it was a lot better than I expected. The film follows a smart buoy and their budding relationship with a sky satellite, left to teach any visitors of this now desolate Earth about the planet's history. As the buoy begins to explore the history of Earth through the internet, it finds an influencer's YouTube page and decides that it wants to play it out with the satellite, with them deciding on the names Me and I Am. I was pleasantly surprised by how the movie pans out, with the satellite and buoy trying to figure out as they adapt and begin to take digital form if they are truly a living entity. I like the way the movie decides on the buoy wanting to live an influencer lifestyle, something that is inherently artificial, even if the emotions the people who ran the channel felt were real. In a world where AI and robots are becoming commonplace for many films, positively or negatively, I thought this film played it in a way that I consider very creative. The social media aspect of needing to appeal to others really hit a chord with me, and maybe that's something where your age will come into play if this movie works for you. At least for me, it did, and I think it's a worthwhile watch, even if it's just to experience it. Presence. I honestly had a ton of interest in this film. A movie from a ghost's point of view, and it's not a horror film? Count me in. The film follows, well, a presence, as it watches through the events of a family that has just moved into the house. Drama ensues, and yeah, I have problems with this film. Mild spoilers ahead. To start, it's quite a mess. There's a lot of things that are very loose in terms of themes, and ideas thrown into the plot that go nowhere. A minor example that comes to mind is that we're shown the dad contemplating divorce, and worrying that his wife's illegal actions may come back to bite him. I don't believe at any point it was mentioned what the mom does for a living, and it seemed like there may be more to this, but really there isn't. Past this scene, there isn't anything else brought up on it, besides the mom hiding her laptop while deleting emails. It's artificial drama they dedicate whole scenes to that doesn't really affect the film. The parents play favorites, and the mom literally glazes her son, like to a point where the direction was way off. When they shared the screen, it came across super flirty. I don't know why it was directed this way, but it takes you out of the story completely. On that note, the son's acting is complete trash. That's the end of the statement. The biggest selling point, you following the ghost POV, doesn't really do much for the story. They really do the bare minimum with it, and it leaves a lot left on the plate that I wish they actually went for. The film really just didn't work for me, and I was left feeling a bit disappointed with it overall. It's just a basic family drama that has a ghost thrown into it, and, as not to spoil, an obvious yet dumb twist at the end. I don't recommend this one. Nezra 1964. Nezra 1964, I'm just going to call it Nezra from here, is a mockumentary about the failed production of the Daiei film Giant Horde Beast Nezra. We follow an intern whose sole job is to capture the process of the movie, from the concept being greenlit all the way to its inevitable failure. The idea had me intrigued, and the fact they had made genuine sets to create mock shots really sold me on this. Sadly, the runtime heavily hampers the final product. What's here I genuinely enjoy, especially the build up to the start of the production, but once it starts, it feels like they're forced to stop filming immediately. The runtime here is 55 minutes, so corners obviously had to be cut, but it makes the gut punch the Nezra crew feels while shutting down the movie weak and wimpy to the viewer. That being said, it was cool to see the process of a kaiju movie being conceived and the start of filming play out. It felt like the cast was genuinely having fun. It gives disaster artist vibes, and if you enjoyed that film, I could see you really liking this. It's short and sweet, and while it could do more, it's a cozy watch. Hard Eyes. Hard Eyes is a holiday slasher, taking place, as I'm sure you can guess, during Valentine's Day. We follow Allie and Jay, co-workers assigned to work on a marketing project. As they go through a work dinner, the Hard Eyes killer takes aim, thinking they're a couple. Through corny situations and tripping over the tropes laying all over the floor, how will Allie and Jay make it out? The movie is a slasher film playing into the tropes and general pitfalls of romance movies. It started out cute. The idea itself could have worked, but as the movie goes, the tropes begin to become stale, making for an abrasive watch. Which, unfortunately, is literally the whole idea of the film. I could see people thinking it comes off killer, pun intended, but it didn't work for me. I had the same issue with the past two Scream films. I usually find this idea of characters calling out the meta in real-world situations they're inspired by corny, and it takes me out of the film. Allie and Jay are fine enough as the leads. The movie is an hour and 30 minutes, so this romance they attempt to build comes off flabby and uninteresting. The reveal of the killer was pretty meh as well. They did set the seeds, but the payoff just didn't work for me. The kills themselves were brutal, which helped the enjoyment factor, but I found even with the short runtime, the movie began to heavily drag at the end. The idea of playing every single trope and either going through with it or subverting it harshly got old fast. I don't think it's worth the theater trip, but it could be a fun streaming watch if you're interested. Amelia Perez. I'm sure that if you're in any way familiar with the movie watching side of the internet, the name of this film has graced your ears. It's a quote-unquote musical about a lawyer who helps a notorious cartel boss transition from male to female, and what effect that takes on Amelia's family and loved ones. I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible. Zoe Saldana does a solid job with what she's given. She's usually a sturdy actress to rely on, and though her singing at times wasn't the best, she's easily the standout of the film. Everyone else ranges from blank to horrid. The music is beyond unremarkable, to the point where I could really only point out two songs that I somewhat can conjure the melody to, one of them being fairly obvious. Out of everything that I took issue with, my biggest problem with the film is the arc of Amelia Perez. The film treats the transition process of Amelia as an almost rebirth, down to the fact that at the end she is treated as a martyr and a well-adjusted member of society. I think that's a horrible way to paint that, and the fact that before the transition, Amelia was a ruthless cartel boss that had led to hundreds, if not thousands of deaths, makes her inherently a monster, even if she's given up her ways and is now helping the public. It's an absolutely disgusting way for the character to play out. Past that, there are so many issues with how things are directed and just the overall production that I couldn't even fathom why this movie had the opportunity to be nominated for 13 Oscars. It's insane. And whether you enjoyed the film or not, I think it's fair to say it does not deserve nearly that much. With all of this, do I think it's the worst film ever? No. Honestly, if this didn't have the award buzz, no one would even bat an eye. But it's a completely mediocre, forgettable film at best, and it really isn't worth your time, even to laugh at. The Monkey. The phrase, "this one is for the sickos," really does apply here. Based on the Stephen King short story, the film follows, well, an evil monkey. Brothers Hal and Bill find the monkey as children, but after discovering its evil intentions, they throw it down a well in hopes of escaping it. Now an adult, Hal is still paranoid of the monkey's return, enough so that he decides to only have 1 week with his son a year. As Hal and his son Petey head for a week-long vacation, the monkey returns and begins its havoc once more. This is a horror comedy film, and it leans very heavily into the comedy side. It's honestly hilarious, and there are some jokes here that had me laughing way harder than I expected. It's very dark and absurdist in its humor, which plays well with the monkey's absurd ways of killing its victims. I like the theme of family relationships, and the worries of repeating the same mistakes your parents made with your own children. It's a fairly common theme nowadays, but it's done decently with a short runtime. Hal obviously doesn't want to flat out tell his son the reason they're distant is because of an evil monkey toy. But I do wish their conversations on why he was came down to more than just, "it's complicated," over and over again. Most of the deaths were fun, but the ones that stuck out were easily the elaborate ones that could genuinely happen by unfortunate chance. I found the more over-the-top and unrealistic deaths to not be as effective. If you see the movie, you'll understand what I mean. Overall though, it was a really fun watch, and it's another solid addition to an already great start of the horror genre this year. Wicked Part 1. I already discussed my thoughts on the film in my prior monthly watch, so I'll keep it brief. I will say on a second watch, the film does flow better, and having the ability to watch it at home made it a much more comfy experience, especially as a Valentine's Day watch. While I still am not completely sold on it, I will say that I can appreciate it more than before. Flow. Man, what a film. The film follows a black cat who befriends a cast of friendly critters as they set out on a journey to survive a flood of apocalyptic proportions. The story is told with no dialogue, and it's such a treat seeing the cat's relationship grow with its fellow shipmates as they go about their journey. Seeing the different species interact based on their characteristics made for great comedic and even dramatic moments throughout. The music and visuals are gorgeous and provide the film with the emotion and hook it needs for you to fully engross yourself. I especially applaud the ending. I won't get into it because of spoilers, but the way it ends is very somber and realistic, grounding this film as something very emotional and mature. I highly recommend giving this a watch if you're into animation. We really need more content like this out there. Don't be a menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. Woof, a title that matches up with GMK. Don't Be a Menace is one of my favorite comedies, and honestly, it's one of the movies I've come back to the most in recent years. It's a spoof on the get out of the hood genre, and while I personally haven't seen many films of the sort, the comedy as a whole makes for a great experience, even to those not entwined with the material they're spoofing. It is such a 90s film, and the bombastic slapstick comedy, mixed with some quick-wit gotcha jokes, makes this one of my favorite movies to put on and unwind to. It's definitely not perfect, and something that has become clearer on rewatch is that there are aspects of this film that could have easily been cut to allow a breezier watch. Cutting out, or at least trimming the church scene, is a great example, even though I do enjoy that sequence. Overall though, if you're someone who enjoys spoofs, or out there slapstick comedy, I could see you taking some positives away from this film. It's not for everyone, but if it's up your alley, it's gonna hit. Over the Hedge. Good old-fashioned DreamWorks. I haven't watched this in ages. I remember as a kid I enjoyed the film, but not enough to constantly go back to it. On a rewatch as an adult, I have to say that I found this to be an enjoyable blast from the past. It definitely leans more on the childish end of comedy, but that doesn't stop the film from getting a few laughs out of you, especially when it comes to the subtle jokes, which I found work best. Much like Don't Be a Menace, this is so clearly a movie of its time, with this being the early 2000s. From the music to the rebellious tone of the film itself, hell, the daughter possum is the trademark punk teen stereotype of that era. I mean this more as a positive than a negative, mind you. It's a simple film with a good heart. Nothing wrong with that. With that, we wrap up my watches for the month of February. Going forward, I think I'll bring up TV shows as I finish a season or the show itself. I'm testing the waters with that, so we'll see. What did you watch though? Do you agree or disagree with some of my takes? Be sure to leave a comment, and I'd love to discuss it with you. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and be sure to subscribe to see more from me in the future. The support is greatly appreciated. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been Tobisatsu, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.